Hello everybody, welcome to CVG-TV. My name is Gregory Parks and you are watching CONLink. With us today is another member of our board of directors presenting Tim Wick. Thank you for joining us, Tim.
Hi.
Hi, now what is your position on the board of directors this year?
I am the director of production, which means I'm in charge of things like this. And also...
Oh, the boss.
Yeah, I know. Also main stage, harmonic convergence, pretty much anything that involves performances is sort of my ballywhack, as it were.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And so I know you've been considerably involved in CONvergence in the past.
It is true.
I'm understating this, I realize.
Maybe.
So what drove or led you to production this year?
That's a good question. Yeah, I was actually one of the founding board members of CONvergence back in, we started in 1997. So I was a board member for 10 years, and then I've been off the board for more than 10 years and opted to run for a position this year. In productions, I've been involved in theater all my life. I have a theater degree. Productions is theater, and I felt like it was something I was qualified to help run, that I understood the language that my department heads were speaking, and that I could hopefully be that person there to support them when they're saying to the other directors, this is what we need, that I could be that person that says, this is what they're saying, so they don't sit there and go, why does this cost X amount of dollars? I don't understand. And I can say, you don't understand how much it should cost. And hopefully we can create some sort of agreement from there.
Yeah, like you're getting a deal.
Yeah.
You don't understand this. You're getting a deal. This is cheap.
Yeah.
So then what are you looking forward to this year, and what do you foresee as being challenges for you this year?
The biggest challenge is that I'm still involved. I've been involved in a lot of productions at CONvergence over the years. So that's another reason that I felt like it was a department, a division that I could relate to. I do a lot of performances on main stage. I've done a lot of performances on main stage over the years. I do a lot of the performative panels. I have a band that appears in harmonic convergence. I've done spoken word in Wordslinger's Way. I've worked with all of these departments before, so I felt like we all kind of knew each other. But of course, I'm working with these departments this year, doing shows on main stage, and my band's going to be performing at Harmonic Convergence, and I've been asked to do a story for one of the shows at Wordslinger's Way, and I also have to be a director, and there's all sorts of work that goes into that. So what I've managed to do is take an already busy schedule and ensured that anytime I don't have something actually on the schedule, I will be busy doing something else. So if that's the biggest challenge. Also, trying to make sure I don't look at my texts and messages on my phone when I'm actually in the middle of a panel, because that'll just be bad. And I need to focus on the panel and then put out the fires after. I have to remind myself that just about any fire that's burning at a convention can probably burn for another half hour without anybody getting really hurt. And maybe the fire metaphor is a bad one in this case, but a metaphorical fire can probably get through a half an hour if I'm the only person that can reasonably deal with it. We'll see how that works out.
And this also brings me, because talking about putting out fires and being the only person, this brings to mind staffing.
Yeah.
And then, so volunteers. CONvergence is a volunteer-run convention.
Yes, it is.
But CONvergence is people. We've all heard that before, and we've all seen how true it is. Do you have any idea at this point what your volunteer load is like? Is production one of the departments that is in need of volunteers at this point, or are you set for volunteers?
At this point, I feel pretty good. I've got good people who have been running most of the departments in my division for a while, which is good. It makes me feel like I've got time to get used to all the things that directors have to do that isn't just being a supervisor for a department, and it gives me time to work on those. We do have a little bit of a challenge with video in main stage this year. Our head actually is also a technician for the Fringe Festival, which runs concurrently with CONvergence for one final year. Yeah. And that's a shame. We are going to be looking for people to help with that department, and I would love to tell you exactly what that is, but I don't know exactly, and that's going to be some really specialized stuff that we need. For general volunteers, I know we always need badgers. We are going to need a lot of help in registration this year. It's still really up in the air, right? We don't really know what's going to happen, but looking at some of the other larger conventions in town, this year being the first year since 2020 that we've been able to have kind of a full or close to a full convention, we hope, because we don't know what the next 2 months will bring, but let's hope we can have something close to a full convention. Registration's likely going to get hit with a lot of at-the-door registrations. And I know that if I have extra time, I'll probably be down there sitting at a table checking people in. I think the concern is that we could see a larger than expected number of at-the-door registrations. And because those take more work per person, we might really see a slowdown if we don't get the volunteers that we need. So that's going to be a big thing. I think another place, and this is me speaking for divisions that aren't mine, but still, CONsuite always needs people. You know, I think it's great that we have a place where people can walk in, grab a snack, grab something to drink, maybe grab a bowl of rice or a bowl of soup if that's what we happen to have at the time. And somebody needs to be preparing that food, somebody needs to be setting out that food, somebody needs to be cleaning up after that food. So I know that that's a department that may not be as noticeable as some other departments, but it is a really, really important one. And I think most people really appreciate CONsuite. And if you really appreciate CONsuite, it'd be great if you could put in an hour helping out in CONsuite.
Yeah, and volunteers are much appreciated. Volunteers are really the superstars of the convention.
Yeah, more than anything, any of it. I mean, everybody who, from the people who sit there and check your badges up to the members of the board of directors, are all volunteers. Nobody gets paid to do this. No. And it's a lot of work. It is a lot of work. I think the most important thing to me is just recognize that I hope people recognize how many hours go into this convention. And if you're there for a 4-day weekend, maybe you've got just a couple hours to spare. And I do have to say, this is really important. I respect people who are like, no, I'm here for a weekend off. And I want to just enjoy myself. And I absolutely get that, and I support that. Volunteering isn't for everyone, but if anybody has that spare hour, if you're just looking at your schedule, you're like, I got 5 hours with nothing to do, maybe give an hour of that to the convention, because it's really going to help everybody who is doing a ton of heavy lifting. Make sure that it's a great experience for everybody.
Oh, come on. We can go in for just a few minutes and we'll be just fine.
Nay, I shan't enter this party, as we are currently in a plague. Besides, there be drugs and vapes in there, and I shall not partake.
We can just wear our masks. +3 against viral beholders.
I do not believe you are going to wear your mask the whole time that you're in there. You can't go 5 minutes without hitting your magical pipe.
Ooh.
Tally-ho.
Ugh.
Take -5 modifier for your magical pipe.
What did I tell you?
So with all of this, I just talked a whole bunch of procedural and operational
Yeah.
stuff. What are you looking forward to this year?
A lot. I am looking forward to a lot. I think the biggest thing I'm looking forward to is just the idea that we're going to be able to do a convention that's a little closer to a full pre-pandemic convention. I keep saying that I felt like last year was kind of 50% of a convention. Obviously 2020 was 0% of a convention. We did an online convention, but it was still kind of 0% of a convention. We want to get closer to 90 to 95%. We know that there's still a few things that aren't quite ready to come back fully, but that to me is just like the best thing, to be able to say that we've moved as much past the worst of it and we can have a convention again. But things that I'm looking forward to personally, there's actually a panel I do with you, which is the Star Wars Love panel, where we just do a panel about how much we love Star Wars.
No hate allowed.
Yeah, absolutely. No hate allowed. It's like, if you want to come in there and tell us how much you love something that you personally don't care for, we are just going to smile and nod and tell you how great it is that we think that you love that thing, whatever it is. And I'm not going to say what it is right now, because I think the really important thing is Star Wars is something that a lot of people love. Yeah. And we all have our petty frustrations about Star Wars, but sometimes it's nice to just sit in a room and go, yeah, but there's so much great about Star Wars. Can't we just appreciate the great stuff about Star Wars for a little bit? Last year when we did the panel, we were talking about droids. For some reason, the topic was droids. And this kid comes in a Gonk droid costume.
I remember that.
So great. It was so great. And he was the perfect height for a Gonk droid. And he had the Gonk droid walk. And it was perfect. And
standing ovation.
Star Wars is such a big part of the geek community. And it's great to watch the way Star Wars has become so much more diverse, both in representation on screen, but also in the people who are producing it, the people who are creating the stories, and the stories that are being told. That it's not just the Skywalker saga anymore. There's so much. They're filling in the edges of the Star Wars universe, and I really love talking about that, and I really love being able to do a panel. Because it's often been said that the worst thing that ever happened to Star Wars was Star Wars fans. And I don't think that's always true. I think that we want to remind Star Wars fans that there's a reason we like Star Wars so much. And even if we want to sit down someday and complain about whatever Star Wars movie we didn't like or character we didn't like, there's so much out there that's great. So I love that panel. I love doing that panel. I can't wait to do it. I think the name of the panel this year is Positively Star Wars. And it's you and me and Joseph Scrimshaw are going to be the panelists.
I just lost my focus. Like, Joseph Scrimshaw.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my God. I just fanboyed.
He's great. He's funny. I've known him for a long time. He's been with CONvergence as long as CONvergence has been around. Just a really, really funny person who is super positive when it comes to fandom and super, super positive about a lot of things, including Star Wars. And I think that's one of the things I really enjoy about him. Another thing, and Joseph is on this panel too, but another thing that we're doing this year that we didn't get to do in 2020, we've done a panel called SmackDown for several years, where we take different topics like Starship Smackdown, where we take 16 starships and put them in an arena against each other and decide who the winner is. So we have now done SmackDown 16 times, which means it's time for SmackDown, in which the winners from every preceding SmackDown will go up against each other. And since we've had things like Breakfast Cereal Mascot Smackdown, as well as Starship Smackdown, there is theoretically the possibility that Tony the Tiger will go up against a Superstar Destroyer. And we'll have to determine who would win in a fight. And you know what? I know you'd say it's a Superstar Destroyer, but I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure.
I'm looking forward to like convincing arguments.
Yeah.
They would have to be,
Yeah.
people can make some convincing arguments.
What about the Ham's Beer Bear? The Ham's Beer Bear. Could it defeat
really
a super,
totally
or
lovable.
could it defeat Cthulhu? I don't know. I don't know.
We'll
I'm
find out.
I'm just the MC. I'm not the expert. My job is to stand there and be very annoyed when the wrong character wins. And I've done that many times over the last, well, now 18 years. But we finally get to do it. Friday night, main stage, SmackDown, SmackDown.
Long awaited.
Yes. I hope that we have at least one lightning round that's all the stuff that should have won facing
then
off against each other. Yeah. Because there's still some stuff I'm pretty upset about.
And lots of surprise, like this gets into like surprises with CONvergence. Like you never know what you'll stumble on in CONvergence. You'll never know what you'll find out about. You'll never know what you'll see on the main stage or at Harmonic CONvergence.
Yeah.
Like before last year, I'd never, was it last year or a couple years before? I'd never seen Chuck Tingle.
Chuck Tingle.
For example. And like there's plenty of things to discover.
Yeah.
Now, what is something like with all the fandoms that you're into? Like you're a Disney fan.
I am a Disney fan.
You're
yes.
a Star Wars fan,
Yes.
which we just talked about. What is something that either you're aware of, not necessarily, or personally into, that you would like to see get more attention, get more time in the spotlight
Sure.
at conventions or other geek proms or
Well, let
things
me
like
talk, because I'm on the board there, and CONvergence Events does more than just CONvergence. One of the things that we have is the Midwest Sci-Fi Film Festival that CONvergence sponsors. They just, a little while before this taping, had their spring festival where it was an online festival. You could pay $10 and watch a series of short science fiction films curated by the individuals putting on the festival. And on main stage this year, they're going to present the award winners from that festival, and also from another one that's going to take place in the summer, as well as favorites by the festival creators. It's going to be like an hour and a half to 2 hours. It's going to take place in main stage, so big room, big screens, a great opportunity to watch some independently produced sci-fi, fantasy, and horror shorts, many of which are not from America.
Oh.
A lot of them were from Spain in this last bunch. I watched a bunch of them. They were really, really good. And I would love people to go to main stage, watch a couple of those, and consider going to one of these sci-fi film festivals. Some of them are online, so super easy, zero entry kind of thing. You get a weekend-long pass, and most of the time it's like 3 hours worth of films, and they're all mostly 15 minutes or less. So you can be like, well, watch a couple on Friday, watch a couple on Saturday, watch the rest on Sunday, whatever fits your timetable. There's also going to be, right now, a live one in October. Of course, you never know, but it might be online. But I really want people to know that CONvergence Events does other events other times of the year, not maybe a lot, maybe not something you're into, but if that's something that interests people, I hope they check that out on main stage, because I think it's going to be pretty cool. And also on main stage, there's going to be a play reading by former guest of honor Saimukta Vangse.
Oh, cool.
So it's Saimukta. I want to make sure I pronounce her name correctly. But anyway, Saimukta Vangse is going to have a reading of a play that she's going to be producing with Theater Moo, I think, over the next couple of years. So it's a staged reading that's going to be on main stage. And that's, again, as somebody who's into theater, as somebody who got into the division that I'm in because of what I've been doing outside of CONvergence, I'm really excited to be able to, and this is like it's a kung fu science fiction play.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, people should give that a shot.
How you doing, little consumers? I just wanted to take a minute to thank each and every one of you little walking money bags for helping me keep my dying industry alive. You see, sometime within the last, I don't know, decade or so, smoking became less cool. Can you believe that? I couldn't. I was pretty sure I was going to have to start selling used cars. Or timeshares or something. But then, our scientists came up with something that saved our bacon. Vaping. I mean, it's got to be healthier, right? It ain't smoke, it's just steam or something. And don't you love that you can get your vape juices and all the flavors of candy that you loved as a kid? On top of that, when you vape, ain't no one can tell you when you get to use it or not. It'll drive your parents nuts. You're not supposed to do it, so doing it makes you cool. If James Dean was alive, he'd vape. So, let me give yous all the TRVL. I'm making money off of you wanting to be cool. So thanks for that.
So when you were talking about the film festival, it reminded me of the main stage area. So in the new hotel, there's a bigger ballroom.
Yeah.
And we knows that there's, not just the main stage, but then because of the width of the room, there are these two large screens.
Yes.
On either side. There's a lot of width, a lot of depth to the room. What are how much of a boon has that been to the production department to have this greater resource, like a greater space resource? I imagine that it's more technical stuff to deal with.
There is more technical stuff to deal with, and when we talked about volunteers, Main Stage Video is responsible for making things like those screens on the side happen. It is, and I'll speak to this a little bit because I happen to be married to one of the people who runs Main Stage, and they were so excited to get into that space. A lot more opportunities as far as lighting is concerned. They really love having the extra seating capacity. There are several events that filled the old Main Stage space that have come close to filling out the new Main Stage space, but still, it feels like there's room for everybody. And I know that this year, I don't know what the attendance is going to be this year. Nobody knows that, but our attendance is probably going to be a little lower than we were at our peak. I think it's going to take a little while to find that peak attendance again. And part of that is we moved to a new hotel. Part of that is we're at a date that isn't familiar to a lot of people. I'm super excited that next year we get to move back to July 4th weekend, but I think that we are seeing the numbers climb, and I think that we are going to see close to full opportunities at the main stage. And having those screens on the side really means that everybody in the house gets a good view of what's going on from that stage. Because if you're off to one side and you're looking on a big long diagonal to the person on the stage, that's not the best view. I got to admit, but by having that width to be able to provide those screens on either side, it really makes a huge difference for everybody. Literally a huge difference for everybody to really be able to experience what's going on Main Stage.
Definitely. And as far as the numbers too, I think, it felt last year that even though the numbers were lower, the enthusiasm was still there.
Yeah. Yeah. I think everybody was super excited to be back.
Yeah. And then this year, I expect that that will be the same thing. Because it seems like people, when you look at other conventions across the country, people are really ready to jump at the opportunity to go back to their favorite convention or to a new convention.
I think we're seeing that everywhere. Talking as a Disney fan, just having been back to Disney World a couple of times in the last 6 months, and my gosh, the number of people, and it's always crowded, but it feels crowded in a different way. People are just yeah, we get to go out and do stuff again. Let's ride Space Mountain 12 times, yeah! Which I don't blame them for. Space Mountain is great. 12 times is great. But the more times you go on Space Mountain, the fewer times you can go on Rise of the Resistance, and I don't feel that's a fair trade. So, but that's my personal opinion. Everybody can do whatever they want at Disney World, or not at Disney World for that matter. But I think, especially when we talk about the need at registration, the expectation for more at the doors, looking at how other conventions have seen a real spike in at the door registrations suggests to me that that is likely to be something that we're going to see this year. And while I say I don't know if we're going to be at peak attendance yet, I think the numbers are going to be pretty good, and I'm excited to have that many people there just geeking out about the stuff they love, whether it's Star Wars or Pokemon or Marvel Cinematic Universe or Disney World. Whatever.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good problem to have.
It is.
It's a good problem to have. Well, thank you for joining us again on the ConLink couch, Tim.
Thank you for having me.
It's always nice to have you and to speak with you. And it's always nice to have you join us here for ConLink. I'm Gregory Parks. We'll see you on the next one.